You're watching Drive the Lightning, the positively charged EV channel.
That's Jerry Molnar. He is a brand ambassador for Aptera, and he's going to help us address some comments that we've gotten from you. And I'm Chad with Drive the Lightning. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. I'm Sarah. Due to circumstances beyond his control, Chad's not able to be here, so I'm filling in. I hope you all can put up with that. We're going to take a look at some comments today that we've gotten. Now, we are the Positively Charged channel, as Jerry had just said, but we sometimes get some comments that could be construed as negative. So we're going to take some head on today. Let's get started right away. First of all, Bob Hilder, 1469, sends in this comment, while over-the-top hype works for the already converted, it is counterproductive if you're trying to win converts. So we are positively charged. We tend to hit the high notes really high, and we don't worry too much about the low notes. What do you think, Jerry? Are we just wasting our time here?
Not at all. So to address the comment, is it overhyped or is overhyping counterproductive? First off, I would say that is it really overhype? I mean, can you overhype a car that charges itself and uses 1/3 less electricity than any other AV? I'm not sure that's just is it overhype or is it just overly enthusiastic? I think there's a distinct difference there.
Oh, nice point. I like
So
that.
I think the response here is maybe not overhyped, but just overly enthusiastic. I would prefer that term.
Okay, that
And
makes
how could
sense.
you not be overly enthusiastic about a car like this?
I think we agree with that. We literally are incapable of not being overly enthusiastic. And I love the points that you made about the fact that it's hard to overhype something that is a complete game changer. I mean, solar being useful solar power where people may never have to charge this car, it is hard to overhype that. I agree.
Were people overly hyping the telephone, the radio, television? You could say, yeah, that's overly hyped. We can see pictures now instead of listening to it on the radio. I can understand some people saying that because it it's almost so good that it seems too good to be true. So, I can understand their perspective somewhat because it does seem too good to be true until you delve into the details and how they do it.
Right.
It's just more aerodynamic, it's lighter, so it does achieve all the things that they claim.
Right. So it's science supported hype and enthusiasm. That's what we're going with.
Exactly.
Okay.
Perfectly put.
Nice. Okay, so we do have to address the fact that you can't get the Aptera yet. And this leads us into the next comment that we're going to take on by Bike Buddha 01. Aptera is a marketing company, not a car company. They've been making money marketing for over a decade now. They will never actually make a car. Now, we understand where these kinds of comments come from. There are some so-called internet companies that just hype a product that doesn't exist and never does exist. Sometimes with the best of intentions, companies go forward and they just can't make it to production, so it doesn't actually come into existence. What do you think makes Aptera different, Jerry?
Well, first off, there's two things to address there. But they've been in existence doing this continuously for over a decade is just not true. The original company went out of business around 2011, and then nothing happened really much for a while until 2019 when Chris Anthony and Steve Fambro resurrected the company. And, the first company was not really the same company it is now. It got, they let control go over to someone from Detroit and they changed the direction. They got ousted out of the company. So it's really not the same company. What was the second part of that? I lost
Uh,
my train of thought.
but just that it's a marketing company.
Oh, it's a marketing company.
Yeah.
Well, that's an easy one. Aren't all car companies marketing companies as well as a car company? I mean, how many ads do we see over and over and over for Toyota? I mean,
Right.
we could argue that most of the legacy automakers are marketing companies more than they are car companies.
I think you
I
could
mean,
probably
yes, they haven't
argue.
produced a car, but they have what, four prototypes? So it's not just a marketing company when you actually have physical vehicles that have been driven and shown around. So no, I don't think you can call it a marketing company.
Nice, yeah. And having been there, you and I, we met at the Aptera headquarters, so we know that there is a building there for the purpose of putting together Apteras. They're taking progressive steps towards getting to production, and it's going forward. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. And you make a good point. You could argue that literally every company with a product is a marketing company because they want
Well,
people to
especially
know
the big
about their goods.
companies.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah.
And you made a good point about the physical factory. Many people have been there. I've been there myself twice. I've met all the personnel. Most vaporware companies keep themselves hidden.
Good point. Nice. Okay, let's move on to another comment. This one is from HC Carey. The comment is, I'm starting to doubt the production car will ever appear. I hope I'm wrong. And I believe that this comes from a sincere place. There have been people who have had pre-orders and their date for receiving it has been pushed back. So this is, you could consider it negative, but I think it's just honest. Somebody who's just concerned. What would you say to address someone with those concerns?
Yeah, I get it. They sort of changed courses here when they went with CPC and that set them back a little bit. People are just getting impatient and now they're getting fearful because everything's pushed back. But I will remind people, look at Tesla. It took them 6 years to get from the idea to producing a car. And their project wasn't anywhere near as hard as this. I mean, they took an already existing car, a Lotus Elise, and just electrified it. Not anywhere near the design challenges or engineering challenges as Aptera, which is basically starting from ground zero and creating everything new. So waiting an extra year or two, although I don't like it either. It's it's not fun, and I can see where someone gets a little fearful because they see changes happening and dates being pushed back. So yeah, I get it, but just have patience. The good part is if we wait a little bit longer, it's going to take them, it's going to have they're going to have more time to get things right when it does come out.
Nice. That's a great point. And like the fact too that they did pivot to go with CPC, but that didn't shut down the whole process. They didn't say, okay, we can't get it done this way then, or that's not going to be efficient. So then it's out. They just look for a way to solve that problem. So they've made a pivot. And to me, that's a positive thing. But I'm with everybody else. I want mine in my driveway right now, of course, but we don't
Well,
have it yet. But I think it'll be worth the
there
wait when it does come out.
absolutely, and it's going to be going with CPC with the molded carbon is going to be positive on many aspects. The number one reason they did that, according to Chris and Sandy Monroe, was once they realized they were going to have a lot more pre-orders than they thought, they realized that they're going to need to produce this in much greater and faster quantities. And so this process allows them to do that. But also the parts are going to be more accurate. They're going to be more consistent and possibly a little bit higher quality. I've seen one of the CPC parts up close, and I was blown away by how strong and light it was and just how finished it looked. And this is just an early piece.
Nice.
So it's
Exciting.
going to be positive change in the long run to have, to go with CPC, not just for the scale up of production, but the accuracy of the parts and repeatability. Everything's going to be better with going with the CPC process. The only negative is it set them back a year. So
Okay. Yeah. It sounds, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, and stop me if I'm wrong, it's slowing down the beginning of the list to receive their Apteras, but it will result in the later pre-orders being fulfilled faster.
exactly, they'll be
Got it
able to keep
right.
up with demand easier. Yeah, exactly.
Let's look at another one here from Roger Froud 300. The comment is, it's the sort of car that everyone gets excited about and says that they would buy one. However, when it comes to buying one, they just won't. It's too niche, too fragile, and it isn't capable enough. I'd love one, but I can't put my golf clubs in it or take stuff to the dump. I can do that with my smart car, and I can also travel the length of the country. Hard to pick a place to start here, but Jerry, what do you think? Is it too niche? Is it too fragile? Can you put golf clubs in it? Can you take it to the dump? What do you think?
Well, obviously, this person has not watched many of the Aptera videos because number one, they would see you could put probably 5 golf club bags in there. Have they not seen the videos where they're putting surfboards and coolers? And I've seen it myself. It's got a huge cargo area in the back.
I
So
would just
that's,
like
yeah,
Chad laid down in the cargo
go ahead.
area of the back. I just want to
There
point
you
out
go.
that Chad fits in there, and he's a little bit bigger than a thing of golf clubs, I think, but he was comfortable laying in the back. So I just want to add to
And the
that.
one he laid in, and the one he laid in isn't even as big as Delta. Delta's even bigger than Gamma.
Right.
And I saw a Gamma, and it was huge. I have a 2 Priuses, and when you fold down the back seats, there's quite a bit of room in there. I get some of my large radio-controlled airplanes that are the largest piece is 6 feet long, and I get several planes in there. And this is easily as big or bigger than the back of my Prius. Now, the fragility issue. Well, they've said from the very get-go that this thing was going to be designed to meet or exceed the highest passenger car standards. Their front crumple zone is bigger than most cars, and the carbon fiber cell is designed to meet or exceed any passenger car. The early Aptera, the shell was so hard it couldn't even be broken with a sledgehammer. So I don't know if I'd call that fragile. In fact, I would say it's just the opposite.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. And I remember when we were at the factory tour and Chris Anthony was giving a presentation, they were explaining that they are exceeding many of their, because it's a motorcycle class vehicle, they're exceeding many of the required safety things to make it as safe as a car, safer than many cars. So I was impressed with that extra mile that they're going for its safety.
Well, I can tell you from handling that one carbon piece, it was stronger than any piece of sheet metal that you would use in a car. So just based off of that, I would say this car is going to be stronger and less fragile than most sheet metal cars.
Nice. Let's talk about how niche it is. Who do you think is the Aptera audience? Who will buy Apteras?
It's hard to say because I think the first impression is when you see a picture of it, it looks small. But when you see it in person and get inside of it, you realize it's much bigger than it looks. It's very, very sleek shape, gives the appearance of being small when you see it in the picture. And I mean, the thing that keeps coming up over and over is we look around whenever you're driving around the streets. How many times do you see more than 2 people in a car? If you can carry yourself and a passenger and have tons of cargo room in the back, how many people need more than that? The cargo area in the back of most SUVs wasn't much greater, except for maybe the height, than the back of our Prius.
Jason Hill talked about in a video months ago about the blue ocean strategy, and it's kind of like what Aptera is doing is they're creating a market and a new demand that wasn't there several years ago, and so it takes a while, and there's going to be mistakes, and they're going to take and fix them. It's like making a new recipe. You're going to try new and different things, just like the iPhone, but the thing is with the iPhone, we never knew any of that was happening, so we didn't get anxious. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Helen. Okay, last comment. We got one more to address. Pro Photo Services says, Aptera is a long-time project that never has happened. Why is this still being touted? Jerry, you're one of the top touters of Aptera, as we are guilty of being the same. Why are we still touting it?
Well, first off, it was back to the earlier question is, this is a long-term company. It's a different company, but why is it being touted? Because it's an idea that should have happened a long time ago and is happening now. The other point about the earlier company, they didn't have the technology, batteries, and all the off-the-shelf EV components. It was much harder to do an EV then. That was even before Tesla when Aptera first started.
Right.
So, you know, they didn't have the EV technology they have now. So it was much, much, much harder to try to do an EV like this back then. So yeah, why is it still being touted? Because it's still a great idea.
Right.
Would we say because they couldn't bring out the telephone at first because of technological hurdles, and then they tried doing it 20 years later when they had the technology? Well, why are we still wanting a telephone? Because it's a good idea.
Yeah. Like you said, a lot has changed since they were in business many years ago, but I think it was 2019 when they resurrected this shape and then added solar and made it battery powered and with no gasoline.
You know, the unique shape is going to draw a lot of attention to it. I mean,
Yes.
it's been said a lot of times, I think, if you own one, be prepared for a lot of people stopping you and asking you questions. Now, on the negative side of that, I'm sure the long arm of the law is going to really notice you in an Aptera set. You're probably not going to get away with speeding as much as you would in a normal car.
True. Thank you for that warning in advance. We'll all have to be cautious of that. Thank you so much to Jerry and Helen for coming on, for addressing these questions as Aptera ambassadors. We appreciate their input and their knowledge that they can share with the channel.
It's been real.
We have to say a huge thank you to Bob Newchow. He's been a great friend and supporter of the channel. He bought us a cup of coffee. Thank you, Bob. Bob is an author and poet, and you can buy his books on Amazon. I believe there will be a link below. Thank you so much to every one of our channel members. We really, really appreciate your support. We also want to thank everyone who is a member of the Mug Club. We appreciate every one of you who has bought a mug that is helping to fund our next trip out to Carlsbad to see Aptera. So you can see on the map where all of these mugs have gone all over the world. I hope you see your mug on the map. If you don't, tell me because I've missed something, so sorry about that, but thank you for all of the mugs you've bought. Thank you to everyone who has commented on the channel. Please keep the comments coming. That keeps us going.